Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the World Cybersecurity Summit. And right now we're on our first panel discussion on the government cybersecurity strategy, protected critical infrastructure, secure citizen services, and establishing an up-to-date smart city cybersecurity. Well, in this panel discussion, we're looking at talking about the three pillars of the government cybersecurity strategy, which is securing federal networks, protecting critical infrastructure, and also providing cybersecurity governance. Also, we're looking at talking about how to effectively build strong capabilities for detection, response, and recovery. Also, the intergovernment cyber defense collaboration, wherein you're looking at creating a cyber resilient community, and also the two-factor authentication, which is the encryption for the sensitive data and other effective mechanisms of cybersecurity for governments. Well, we're joined by our eminent panelists. First up, Laila, Abdullah Hadhrami, the digital transformation and change management expert, Ministry of Transport, Communication and Information Technology, Oman, and also the director of the Oman Smart City platform, Sultanate of Oman. Well, Laila specializes in digital and social media and is currently leading national projects in Oman like the Government Innovation in Emerging Technologies and being the Smart Ambassador Initiative in Oman and other projects related to digital transformation. We're also joined by Ali Abdullah Al-Sadadi, the head of IT, National Oil and Gas Authority, Bahrain. Well, Ali, with over 16 years plus years of experience in the information technology, Ali's background includes areas such as digital transformation, cybersecurity, cloud transformation, and IT service management frameworks. Also, we're joined by Talal Al-Asmi, the Director of Information Security, Department of Electronic Information Security, Ministry of Education, Sultanate of Oman. Talal has more than 20 years of experience in industry and he's currently working at the Ministry of Education in Oman as a director of the Electronic Information Security Department. And this entire conversation is going to be moderated by Alina Deek, the founder and coordinator, UNCTAD Youth Action Hub, Oman, Sultanate of Oman. Well, Alina, being a scholastic scholar and the youngest member, ELDP, UNCTAD Youth Oman Young Leader of the Year, Middle East Women Award. So she's somebody who's got a lot of accolades to her name and definitely is going to be a great, great moderator for us. Thank you so much, Alina, Laila, Talal, and our eminent Ali to join us for this panel discussion. We just request everyone to please switch on their cameras before I pass on the live baton to Alina to take it forward with her panel. Talal, if you can hear us, we'd like you to put your audio video on. Alina, till then, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. And it's wonderful to see wonderful panelists, just like as you introduced with us today. And I think today's conversation is going to be so informative and fantastic, given the panel that we have. So without further ado, talking about the panel session today, we all know that when it comes to urbanization is something that is getting a hotter topic day by day. And we are looking right now, by the end of 2040, having 65% of the world population moving into cities. And that's where we look at bigger numbers. We're looking at numbers such as 1.3 million population numbers moving into cities every single day. And that's a very huge number. And talking about cities, of course, with corporates, cities come with individuals, and all these are connected to the digital media. But there's one thing that continuously keeps recurring, and that is the word smart cities. And among us, we have one of the experts in smart cities, Ms. Laila, with us. I'd like to first of all ask you, Ms. Laila, when you talk about smart cities, what is a smart city?
Thanks, Elena, for welcoming me and for being part of this panel. And when it comes to smart cities, everyone is asking that question. What is smart cities? It's just about a smart city with a technology, and that's all. Is it about emerging technologies? Is it about services and so on? Is it about, educating people, awareness and so on? Is it about policies when it comes, how you implement the technology and so on? And we are always saying smart city is about all of this, and it's more than that. It's about building, a smart city, a city that you can provide a quality of life. Me as a citizen, you, Alina, anyone, Because, this concept started, when, some big challenges started in the big cities around the world, which they call the mega cities. And because of that, they started with the pollution, the traffic, and so on. That caused another, challenges, environmental issues, security, and so on. And when it comes to the security, people, they started, losing the security, the sense of security. And when it comes to smart cities, we always say security is one of the base, concepts in smart cities. We cannot live in a city without smart security, because we are going to have a big city and we are going to use a lot of technology in that city. So when it comes to security, we have to be aware, because with one click, for example, clicking one link, that might cause disaster. They might, for example, the hacker, they might, control the traffic lights. He can, make chaos and so on. And as Ali Musa said, in the previous session, he said about, Bangladesh, it was through one link. The hacker sent that link and one employee just, click on that link. Because of that email, they lost around more than $80 million. So imagine the big number. So the hackers, they can control full city. So we can have a city with technologies, but we have to be also very careful when it comes to technology, so we can educate our people about it. So that's what I can say about a smart city, where we can live safely and easily with quality of life, where we can find all the services in one place.
Thank you so much. And you mentioned something very interesting as well. You spoke about mega cities, and I think around there are about 21 to 29 mega cities right now in the world, and they are also expanding. We are hoping to have more mega cities. And with technology coming in, people are also going in towards city life. My question to you now is, when it comes to smart cities, could you name 2 or 3 elements so our audience understands what makes these cities smart?
Okay, when it comes to that, it's sometimes challenging to define what are the elements, because as I said, we have to speak about a smart ecosystem. If I am a citizen, is it easy for me, for example, to go to my work? Is it easy, for example, to do sport and so on? So that one is becoming with the smart health, because there is a lot of elements. There's smart education, there's smart health, there's smart environment. Am I living in a place with a clean air and so on? Am I able, for example, to get all the services by one click in my place? Sometimes even, when it comes, for example, let me give you one example, for example. If I'm living in a big city, for example, now we are in Muscat. Muscat, the population is increasing day by day, and the traffic is getting like a hell and so on. Sometimes, because of one accident, everyone is, they just, they feel crazy about it, they lose their temper and so on. So how can we implement the smart, for example, technologies, so it can solve, for example, traffic problem, or let us say the population in Muscat. For example, if I got an accident, there is an accident behind me and so on, I should get, for example, a smart alarm on the radio while I'm driving. And some of the countries, they are using, for example, this kind of technology, so they can alarm me. It's a push service. I don't want to go to Google Maps so I can check what is wrong and so on. I need these services to allow me, to tell me, be careful, there is a traffic behind you, take another route. So that is going to help me. That's going to provide a quality of life for me. So this is one of examples. Another example, when it comes to the smart education and smart health, I always say smart education and smart health are so much connected. For example, we have a lot of utilities. Sometimes you don't need just to go to build again, because you might have the utility in your area. One example, schools are already provided, for example, with the playing yards and so on. As soon as we finish the schools, the kids, they go home. Sometimes they cannot find a place so they can play, for example, football. So sometimes they play where? They play behind the house, on the roads and so on. So when it comes to smart, how can we use the elements of the school? We have some already facilities in the schools, so we can, with, for example, empowering the SMEs to, for example, use these yards in schools. So kids, they can go back to school so they can just do sport. And then we can mentor that when it comes to the health. We will know the number of students, or let us, just students. It can be also a place for the families, so they can, do different activities at school. So that will, bring them as a smart community. So you can see now, we speak about the smart health and smart education, but if you are going to empower these places with some of these, facilities, and of course we are going to use the technology so we can mentor. How many people they are going to do, for example, the sport, how many kids, how many women, how many males, and so on. That will help us so we can predict, are the people healthy in this area or they're not healthy? And that maybe, for example, will help us, for example, to detect earlier the number of people who suffer from diabetic, pressure, and so on. So this is what we mean exactly about some of the elements in smart city. When it comes to smart city, there's a lot of examples. So these are just few, so we can, share it with everyone here.
Thank you so much. I think we need smart cities faster than anyone can even anticipate now. But my next question is, like, since you mentioned, education, we see a lot of education going online and things like that, and we're all witness to this change, especially because of the pandemic. Would you say smart cities come with an extra layer of threats because it's all online or digital in some way?
When it comes to for example, one of the things that we are now focusing nowadays, because of COVID-19, we are going digital, we are going online. Now we have a lot of platforms used by, the education sector and so on. But we have to be very careful about that, because now the kids are using these platforms. So yes, we are empowering the smart when it comes to smart education. But since we are speaking about the security, some of these kids, they might use it, in a wrong way. For example, some of these students, they got blackmailed. Because, I once, get that in front of me. One of my nieces, she was, using MS Team. And suddenly, the first time she linked it through my laptop. And somehow I got the message that she was with her colleagues chatting. And she's only in grade 2. I found out that one student who was bigger than them, he was able to log in. I think he used maybe his brother laptop or his sister, and he was trying, to blackmail the students. He was using, some unethical words and so on. I got really shocked. So immediately, I sent a message to the teacher and my sister. So please make sure that you have to observe the kids. Don't just make them alone and so on, because sometimes we have to mentor them. Everything is going to be digitalized, but we have also to make sure, are they safe? Are they secure? So they cannot be blackmailed. Even some, kids, when they play, for example, the PlayStation or some online games and so on, they get sometimes blackmailed with some people. So they can, get something from them. It might be some unethical issues or some money and so on. So we have to observe them. We have to mentor them when it comes to the online platforms. So that's what I can, add from my side. We can be smart, but we have to be really careful and be more secure.
Thank you so much. And I think it's very important to also highlight the challenges that come with going online as well. And thank you so much for that. I'd like to move our conversation now to Mr. Talal. When you talk about, the 3 pillars of, cybersecurity strategy, you are talking about, your federal networks, your critical infrastructure, and even cybersecurity governance, in that matter of fact. But my question to you with regard to this, Mr. Talal, is, when you talk about organizations working under the umbrella of cybersecurity, what is your organization doing to create awareness about issues like this in the community?
Good morning, Alina. Thank you so much for your questions. Actually, first of all, before we are discuss and talking regarding about the awareness, what is mentioned before Mr. Musa, the technology we are only for the 3 aims or target for people, technology, process. So we cannot doing using any technology without have the people. So the people there is the weakest If they have the knowledge, they are aware, they have everything's prepared for the any challenging or any challenge or any threat or anything else. So that's organization or community in that time in the safe way. And actually, we believe for the called the CETA rules. What's mean of the CETA rules? Security, education, training, awareness. Once they're in place, so everything will be in the safe and we don't have any challenge. So to effective build strong capacity and by following best practice cyber security framework. Likewise, National Institute of Standard and Technology NIST framework for improving critical infrastructure cyber security. Here in Oman, actually, when His Majesty Sultan Haytham have they created for the cyber security defense center, sorry. So that's it actually the place to doing to build that capacity in the different organization government. And in the same time, the framework core consisted with the 5 criteria and contains functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, recovery. So when considered together, these functions provide a high-level strategy view to the life cycle for the organization management of cybersecurity risk. So let's going to the first point as the identify. Develop the organization understanding the managed cybersecurity to the system, asset, data, and capacity. Second, protect. Develop the implementation and operate segregation to ensure delivery of the critical infrastructure services. Example of outcomes categories. With this function include access control, you don't have to the awareness and training, don't have to the data security, information protection process and procedure, maintains and protective technology. If we don't have to the any policy and procedure, so to the in the end of the day, you don't have to follow any rules or any system. Then going to the next point that called to the detected, develop the implemented and approved activities to identify a tool of cyber security event. The detect function enables time and discover of the cybersecurity events. For example, of outcomes categories within the function include anonymous and event security consisted monitoring and detection process. So here in that time, we need something called as a SOC, Security Operation Center. That's it, to have the third, we can say the third eye of the security team. So how they know without having something as the SOC to seeing what's going on. And then going to the next point as the respond, develop the implemented and approved activities to take in action regarding and detect cybersecurity event. Again, for example, here we found the response planning, communication, analysis, and mitigation and improvement. Actually, we have the guideline from the MTCIT, Minister of Education. So we found the rule and regulation from them. So here in Oman, we have that rule, regulation, and implementation to the all ministry, different ministry here in Oman, follow that regulation, rule and regulation by as a standard for depend which that's organization, for example, at Ministry of Education using for the ISO 27001, and different organization use what the base model and policy standard is stable to them. The final point is the recovery. Develop and implemented to operate activities to maintain plans for resilience and the resort to the any capacity to surface that were embedded due the cybersecurity event. For example, of the outcome categories within the function include recovering, planning, improvement, and communication. Thank you, Laila.
Thank you so much, Mr. Talal. I'd like to get Ms. Laila on this, actually. Very interesting point. When you talk about, your cybersecurity awareness programs, I believe there's a very interesting initiative that you would like to talk about as well. Could you please tell us about this? And I think it's also got to do with creating awareness in the community.
Yes, Alina, this is one of the initiatives that is under Oman IT Society. And we started this initiative on January. And one of the things that we are trying to do through this initiative is to reach all the different categories in the society and the community. Because sometimes when it comes to the kind of awareness, you have to think about the different users, because not all the users, they would like to just attend the workshops and the events. Some users, they would like to hear. Some users, they would like just to watch some videos and so on. Some users, they would like, for example, to read the post and so on. So that's what we try to do through this initiative, and we call it, by the way, Aman. Aman means be safe, because when you give it a branding name, it will make an echo with the community, because everyone's saying we keep, and as Talal said, we have to keep awareing the community and so on. And sometimes they say, we are getting done. I say, no, we are not done with that. Because the more we are becoming digitalized, the more we are getting hackers. We are going more threats and so on. So, the threats is very high. That's why we keep awareing the community, because the community are the secure element of any country. If you educate all of them, they will be, the strong base of your country and so on. So that's what we try to do through Aman, aware the community and involve everyone, from the different stakeholders, because we need also to be smart ecosystem. To be a smart ecosystem, smart cities, you have to engage with everyone, all the categories. Think about the kids, about the women, about the men, about the private sector, about the banking sector, the education sector. That is now most of the platforms are online and so on. The health sector. So we have to think about all of these sectors, so we can deliver a proper awareness when it comes to cybersecurity. And we keep saying something. We are all cyber. Everyone has the responsibility. It's not one responsibility. It's not my responsibility. It's not Talal. It's not Ali. It's not the cybersecurity people, ambassador, and so on. It is the responsibility of everyone. You as a mother, as a father, everyone should start from home, because the digital platforms, it's all with us. We are all using the internet, so the percentage of getting hacked and blackmailed is very high.
That's really true. And to be very honest, this entire pandemic as well, because of COVID period, I can see wonderful changes in terms of digitalization. My mom has learned how to use Zoom. How wonderful is that?
Wow.
So I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Mr. Talal made a very, very interesting point talking about cyber resilience as well, while he was mentioning things. And I would like to also bring some numbers to our panelists today, talking about the Sultanate of Oman in particular. We have youth of the age of 18 to 29, about 1.2 million, which accounts for almost 46% of the youth that are there in Oman. And that's quite a high number when you look at it in terms of the population in general. Now, I'd like to go and, go back to Mr. Talal and ask you, what are the programs that are accessible in terms of, creating national youth awareness, or talking about, cyber resilience in your community? What kind of programs can youth actually go and, create that kind of knowledge sharing with?
Before I'm going for your questions, Alina, I guess I need to mention what say Ms. Laila. I'm actually, by the way, I'm one of the part for this facility for as a member, have the membership. Actually, this year I will be honored with them. So actually, they are aligned to the all different organization here in Oman, and that's aligned with the Oman Vision 2040. Actually, as you know, to the Minister of Education, as the biggest organization here in Oman, we have more than 600,000 students, and we have to the more than 86,000 employees. So as a huge numbers. So all that's awareness actually here in Oman, working all together between the Minister of Education and TCIT, CDC, and different organizations to found that in the safe way, especially we are talking about for education. We are here in Oman, or not in Oman, all the different countries in the world will happen the pandemic. So on using that platform, using as education online. So all kids, we've read about that's what's going on, especially for the cyber crime, likewise the bullying, blackmail, electronic bullying, and so on. So what's the solution? Actually, the solution for the awareness. So regarding about your questions, here in Oman, actually we have the biggest you can say the programming we're doing for the talents. That's it between Ministry of Education and ECA academic center. So that is a part for the cyber defense center. So actually that's to build to the own capacity from the young. We need here in Oman to the old vision we have as a defense for the students, started from the young until to going in, finish for their graduate for the university or college or whatever. In the same time, we're working with the different entity here, organization, to the build that's curriculums, have the some pointing headline about for the cybersecurity, how to protect their kids. So actually, and that's area again going to the people. That's it, the weakness. So actually, from our side as the Minister of Education, handling this program, say Cyber First. That's actually for the started as a pilot for 6 regions. Here in Oman, we have 11 regions, so we're working with the 6 out of 11. And in the first time, we make the trainings to the all teacher and engineering. Then we targeting for the each region 50 students. So we have the total 250 for that's 5 regions, and we have the good feedback from the community and the student, and we have the good numbers. And actually we're sharing that's one with different entities, likewise MTCIT and SQS of Tankabus University, actually to giving that student or the talent in the direction way. So Oman working in the vision for Oman Vision 2040, align with them for that student as in the direction way.
Thank you so much. Mashallah, these are like amazing initiatives working in hand with Ministry of Education, as well as Ms. Laila, as she mentioned her initiative of Oman. Amazing initiatives, and a wonderful future lies ahead. Of course, Mr. Ali, we are also would love to have you part of the conversation, and I'm going to ask you something very, very interesting now. When you talk about, your online platforms, most of them are concerned about, security issues. And one of the things also that we keep seeing popping up, whether it's on our Gmail or, it's even on our phone through OTPs, banking systems, we see the factor authentication methods. So whether it's multi-factor through bank cards or PIN numbers, or, you're talking about biometrics like fingerprints or, scans such as that. In your opinion, do you really think these two-factor authentication methods improve security measures? Mr. Ali, you're on mute. Thank you.
Yes, good morning again, and it's my pleasure to be with you in this panel discussion. Talking about the multi-factor authentication, we are talking about the journey, basically, of the authentication itself. I remember before 15 years, 16 years back, the people, they are struggling to use a single factor, which is only one password there, with a minimum characters of 6 characters there. And the people, they are struggling to use the password to authenticate to their systems. Going for this journey with the 6 characters and the debate of, oh, this 6 character is not enough to protect your password. It's easy to be compromised. And the people trying to develop another mechanism by raising the number of minimum characters there, raise it from 6 characters to 8 characters. And again, the people, they say, no, it's not enough to protect your accounts, your application as well, your authentication as well. So going for 8, go for 12 characters there. And again, the 8, 6, or 12 characters, it's not enough to protect your authentication. So the people, they come up with the complex password there, which is the combination of the characters, small letter, symbols, the capital letters as well. But again, that one is not enough to protect your credential, since it's easy to be compromised, whether it's a 1 day or 2 days. the tools there that can be used to compromise the password, it's easy to compromise it with these kind of tools. So that's why the two-factor authentication being introduced to add a second layer for authentication in order to protect your credential and the way to authenticate your application. Now, the two-factor authentication, again, it's been debated because the second layer of a protection, the second password or the OTP, the one-time password, it's being received by the SMS. And again, the debate it comes because the SMS, it can be breached easily as well. So right now, the two-factor authentication, they use it with the authentication app. Google, for example, and Microsoft, they have the authentication app, and this, it's a more safe one. So going for this journey, we have seen that it's really one single factor authentication is not enough to protect your credential and your identity. You have to use the two-factor authentication in order to protect your credential, to avoid that to be compromised by the hackers or by the outsider threats.
Thank you so much. And I think it's really very important to focus on this issue at this moment in terms of authentication and, protecting your credentials, because whether it's a business or it's, individuals, everything is nowadays online. Social media platforms are new every single day, So I'd like to ask you a question, and I think many of our audience would love to hear it as well. As corporates and individuals, how can we protect our data when it comes to this kind of authentication?
Yes, it's a very generic question, basically, and how we can protect from the corporate. It is completely different than the individual people. And talking about the corporate, I think that initially the corporate, they should do a proper data classification in their organization by classifying the data based on the confidentiality level, high confidential, restricted data, and the lower risk one, which is the public data that they can publish it through the website and social media. So we have to differentiate initially between the corporate and the individuals. The corporate, they should do a proper data classification, and prior to that, they should have a proper control, policies, procedures in order to know how to handle these kind of data. The data is being stored in the application, the data is being stored in the email systems, the other data that it's being shared between the employees. So data classification, it's highly required, this is number one, and having the proper controls using or establishing or implementing the policies and the procedures to describe and to control the way that the data is being moved from the people inside the corporates and between the corporates and the other corporates as well. With the individual people, basically, they should protect their informations using the two-factor authentication. This is one of the highly required one to avoid, that compromising their credentials, their identity from the other people.
All right, thank you so much for that. And I think that is something also that we're seeing more and more put into use when it comes to two-factor authentication as well, especially when you look at, your apps, and everything is now, especially with the COVID and the pandemic time, everything is now going through apps. Yes, and it's as simple as, just a menu card when you go to a restaurant right now, you have to scan it. So I think that's very, very important. Parting shorts before we move into the last round would be, according to you, where do you think is the cyber realm headed? Where do you think you would see yourself at the end of, say, 5 years in terms of the cyber world? Where are we heading?
Talking about the cybersecurity, it has a start point and it is infinity point there. It is a non-stop development. That it's a war. People, they are protecting, defending their environments. You have the other people, they are trying to breach, they are trying to hack, they are trying to compromise the things there. So it's a non-stop. The people, they are developed themselves. The hackers, they are developed themselves. So I can consider it's a cyber war. The organization, they should work hardly to protect their informations, their infrastructure, their architecture as well. And because that it's an open space, one, the cyberspace, it will not stop this war at all.
Thank you so much. I think that's very, very interesting. I'd like to ask Miss Laila now, moving forward, is like, Miss Laila, where do you see, or what is your wish moving forward, say 5 years down the line, in terms of where we reach for cybersecurity?
Ali just said one important.
I think there's a problem with the network. Let's go to Mr. Talal. Mr. Talal, 5 years from now, where do you see us in terms of cybersecurity and what we are going to achieve?
I thought Ms. Laila, she tried to speak, or I'm going to answer my question.
Please go ahead, and then we can go back to Ms. Laila.
Actually, we need to achieve to the today or before. You can say if we're speaking 20 years ago, who's none have any knowledge about the IT, that's person you don't know about anything in the life. So the same things actually we said about the cybersecurity. If to the any home, for each student or each home, it must to the have the knowledge and to the aware about the security to protect the national security first, then the family, then to the school. We need actually to the chief, to the found, to the all community here in Oman in the safe side, and to protect with the all organization and to the protect their family in the safe side. Thank you.
I would love to hear what you have to say. Where would you see cybersecurity and us 5 years down the line?
Okay, as I was saying, I love what Ali said, that he said the hackers are developing themselves day by day and they are becoming smarter. It is the same. We have to become smarter so we can understand the mentalities of the people who are hacking us. And as Talal said, the curriculum, it should be earlier. We have all to speak about cybersecurity, how to defend ourselves, because we are going to use the smart solutions. So we have to be careful and be safe. And wish you all to be safe, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Ms. Laila. Thank you so much, Mr. Talal. Thank you so much, Mr. Ali, for joining us today.
Thanks.
It was an absolute wonderful panel session. Bhavna, it's on to you.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Thank you to all our valued panelists. Thank you for joining us.